Alright guys, so this is going to be the favorable match for Hexproof. I was running a variant of Is It Post in this one. Now, this set of matches, just like the unfavorable matches against Teachings, for whatever reason, only 1 out of 3 games saved. Actually, this was only a 2-game match. Deluxe did beat me 2-0 with the Hexproof. So only one of the games saved, unfortunately. I guess one positive is this is the second game. This is after sideboarding, so you can kind of see how that works. I guess if I have to find some silver lining, that would be it. As you can see, the variant I run when it comes to Is It Post is running, am I going to try and pronounce this? Yamabushi's Storm. I think we're going to go with that. So this is a really great card for not only the Hexproof deck, but it works great with Infect. It works great with also Storm in its many different forms with Empty the Warrens. Now, what it does is, for the same cost as Electrickery, it does 1 damage to each creature and then they're exiled. Now, one of the ways that this is definitely obviously worse than Electrickery is the fact that this comes in at sorcery speed. So you cannot do it in response to a fully stormed group of goblins. My deck actually runs a copy of Storm as well as the Electrickeries, so it has the option to get around that. And the Yamabushi Storm is definitely going to be a stronger card for, like I said, Hexproof and Infect. Those are definitely where you want to be using this for. It does work against Storm. There are a lot of times that a Storm player looks to beat you by going off without the Bushwhacker, so they don't get the haste ability, and you do have that chance to respond. So definitely, if you're playing against Storm, you're running the Yamabushi Storm, bring it in. It may not save you, but it increases your odds of getting past it. So anyways, one of the reasons that this is a favorable matchup for Hexproof is that outside of Electrickery and Storm and all of those types of cards, the Is It Post deck has absolutely no way to counter your Hexproof creatures. You are not running black, so you have no access to Edict effects. Your only chance is to do the mass things, the mass damage, and even Rolling Thunder you cannot use because you cannot target down creatures. So if you can sit back, and I think Deluxe talks about this in our interview there, where if you sit back and if you cast Electrickery to clear things off, well, that's good, but you've just gotten rid of 1 copy of Electrickery. And most decks will run 2. At most, they'll probably run 2 walls, maybe a Ghostly Flicker, but even that is something that they really don't run. That's more of a Demir Post thing. So you end up running maybe 4 copies of Electrickery, and you have very, very little options for being able to kind of stop things from happening. You're also running a very slow creature base. It's usually limited to, say, Muldrifters. This is not going to be great for you because of the fact that it's going to not give you any kind of chump blockers in the early game. So it's definitely a bad matchup. Also, with the version that Deluxe runs, and he is the first one to champion this card, Lush Growth is going to give him a great main deck option for Cloud Post that he can use on an offensive way. So instead of just using it to get access to white mana to cast Ethereal Armor, he can use it offensively to shut down Cloud Posts. So it's definitely going to give him a significant advantage. Now, I decided to keep this opening hand. Maybe now I don't play a lot of Is It Post, so maybe some of the more experienced Is It Post players would think I was ridiculous for doing so because I didn't have access to the blue mana. But what I did see is I saw a Storm in hand, which is great. I saw red mana, which I have access to, and at the very least a Prism, which can switch things out for that blue if I need to hold off for a little bit. Things get great. I am on the draw here, so I do draw into an island, and I'm going to start out with that Cloud Post so I can get it untapped as soon as possible. Pretty good start here for Deluxe. He gets down that Utopia Sprawl on that forest. It's going to give him a chance now to really screw things up with Benevolent Unicorn. This is, again, one of his sideboard options. I was not running this in my version, and it was definitely something I did not consider, but it is going to be an MVP here because of the fact that it reduces 1 damage to everything that is taking damage. So now, in order to kill things off, as soon as this Unicorn hits the field, this game is over. This matchup is already very hard for Is It Post to win because of the fact that It has very few options, like we just talked about. Maybe if you're lucky, you have 4 options. In this particular version I was running, I have five copies, basically, of... I have 2 Electricity, 2 Storm, and a Wall. So I have 5 options to deal with creatures here. 5 out of 60 is not great. As soon as Unicorn comes in, game over, because I need to be able to... not only do I need to be able to cast Electricity, I'll have to cast 2 Electricities to deal with 1 toughness creatures. Now, this is, like I said, talking to Deluxe afterwards, perhaps a mistake a bit on my end as far as sideboarding goes, and that's just unfamiliarity with Is It Post. I did side out a lot of my direct damage spells. You do run Lightning Bolts and Flame Slash, and those give you options to get rid of the Unicorn early. And that's one of the ways that you can finally combat Unicorn, but Unicorn just really dominates this matchup. By siding those out, I decrease the odds of being able to actually deal with the Unicorn at all. So that was definitely a bad choice on my part, but I don't think it would have mattered in the end. Still, if you look at things like Flame Slash, right? Flame Slash is going to do 4 damage to a creature. All he needs to do is throw a single enchantment on that Unicorn, and that Unicorn is going to be out of damage range. If you consider the damage that you have available to you in Is It Post, there are a lot of different options that they run. Red, you have the shocks, you have the lightning bolts, and you have the 4 damages off Flame Slash. All you have to do is throw a single enchantment on Benevolent Unicorn so that you can get its toughness up to 4, and you're pretty well set. If you can get that toughness up to 4, when I cast Flame Slash, which is my biggest creature kill, it's going to be useless to me. My only option then will be a Rolling Thunder, and that would be significant to throw away my single copy of Rolling Thunder in order to get rid of a single Unicorn. If I have to do that, by the point that I get the mana available to do that, say he has gotten this Unicorn up to 4 toughness, in order to cast that Rolling Thunder and kill that off, that Rolling Thunder needs to do 5 damage plus the 2 red mana to cost it. So it's going to take 7 mana for me to deal with this single Unicorn. Now, I know that Is It Post and most post decks can get mana up pretty fast, but in order to build up my mana to the point where I can cast 7 to kill off this single Unicorn, by the time that comes around, my opponent will have had plenty of time to get his board set up, have at least 1 hexproof creature down, if not a Gnarlid, have a number of enchantments on that creature, and be significantly dominating the game. Now, I do have some options, of course, to gain some life off the Glimmer Posts, but it's really going to not give me a lot of choice there. So with the Unicorn down, I've lost my option to use this Yambushi Storm, and I'm going to just simply start out with a Glimmer Post so I can get this Prism down, and that gives me mana at least to cast the Preordain and see if I can't find... I did not side out all of my options for direct damage as far as Lightning Bolts and Flame Slashes are concerned, but I really need to dig to find one fast. So Rancor comes down and Ethereal Armor, and this is where I was talking about. First off, he gets an amazing play here. Right now, this is pretty much game over because here we are on turn 3, and he's already got me to a 2-turn clock, including this turn. So this game is over on turn 4. He gets a really great draw here. Double Ethereal Armor plus Rancor. All of a sudden, I'm looking at this Unicorn being an 11-10 Unicorn. Now, this is exactly what I was talking about. Even with just a single Ethereal Armor, he's put himself in a range where I need to do 6 damage to kill off this Unicorn, and that's something that I just cannot do really easily. So it's going to put this game at a range, and this will be really fast. Like I said, that's turn 3. He's now able to attack me for 11 and get me down to 11. So I could have put out a Glimmer Post here. Maybe the better play here would have been to do that, but I was just so kind of thrown on tilt basically by what the way the game is played out that I didn't make the play there. I was hoping to... I don't even know what I was hoping for by going Island first, or what I was trying to draw into here. Maybe a Capsize. If I was able to find Capsize to get rid of that Unicorn, that would be great. However, I think that's my only saving grace. But what happens is I've cast one of my only 2 blue mana sources, so even if I found a Capsize, I would not be able to play it. So I don't really know what I was going for there. I was just, like I said, so thrown on tilt. I really didn't have an answer there. Capsize would have been my only answer, and I would have had to, like I said, have it in hand because I only had 2 blue mana available to me, or an earlier burn spell to kill off this this unicorn. So, it was a really great draw on my opponent. That being said, it's still a very unfavorable match for the Is It Post player and very favorable match for the Hexproof player. There's a lot of options for them to, like I said, with especially with the main deck Lush Growth, that gives them an option to shut down early Cloud Posts, and you really don't have a lot of options to be able to take down those Hexproof creatures. I did actually, I think I did win one game actually. Now that I think about it. Oh, excuse me, choking. I did have one game here where I was able to get a recursion going on the capsize, and that allowed me to return enchantments. I don't have options to deal with his creatures directly, but that single capsize at least gives me some chance that I can return his enchantments and reduce the size of his creatures to a point where I can chump block. So, I mean, there are some options for Is It Post, but it's definitely not a favorable matchup by any means. I think maybe Dimir Post would have a better option at this because of the fact that they do get access to Edict abilities. But ultimately, I really wish that this one especially could save the other games, because I'd played this as a match, like I said, and this was definitely the fastest of the games in the match, and it really didn't show as much as I wanted to, other than a great start and what trouble the unicorn was. So I really wish the others had saved. Unfortunately, they didn't. But hopefully, this still gives you at least some idea as to what the variations are here and how this is such an unfavorable matchup.